Hello. Welcome. Thank you so much for being part of this interview. I noticed on your social profile that you call yourself a feminist photographer. What does that mean to you?
Okay, so I personally identify as a feminist. I started identifying as a feminist like in 2019 when when someone told me that I don't need to be like a perfect activist of women empowerment to claim the feminist personality. And starting then, I also developed my interest in photography. So before during the pandemic, actually in 2020, when the pandemic started, I started an Instagram page, my personal Instagram page, where I took self portraits of myself because it's been so long that we weren't able to get out to dress up. So I wanted to like have an excuse to do a photo shoot or something like that. And then it started as something something vain like that, but then I realized maybe this is an opportunity to also work on my body image issues. That's why I start instead of like trying to make it more posy or more edited. I try to stay away from editing photos too much or from posing too much or being conscious about my body fat too much whenever I took photos of myself. And then this year, because the restrictions were eased since the pandemic, there was already a vaccine. I started asking to have to shoot models because Instagram is a platform that's very aesthetic, wherein their beauty ideals are really upheld. And I wanted to be the kind of photographer that makes people, especially women, comfortable with themselves. So that's why I'm branding myself as a feminist photographer since it's really hard to because I know the experience being the one behind the camera. You're like shy, like am I ugly? I don't feel good being shot like this. So I wanted to be to go behind to go be the photographer and make sure that the women I shoot are comfortable with themselves. So I think some factors that make a photograph, a feminist photograph, is when it's shot by a woman photographer or someone who empathizes or understands the struggles of the actual people being shot in the photograph. And then, of course, the people in the photo are people who are often not represented in mainstream media. So these are the people who we don't see in television or in famous Instagram accounts. So they're not like the typical aesthetic or beauty ideals that we have. So promoting these images and empowering these people, these women helps empower me also as as a photographer, and and hopefully when I post it in a social app like Instagram, it empowers the viewers or the audience or my audience. So I think that's the core of what being a feminist is. So and that's why I really call myself a feminist photographer, and I try to really apply whatever feminist values I can when doing photo shoots. So yeah.
Yeah. I One thing that I love about your photography is how it can feel like your neighbor or a friend of a friend. It feels very real, um, with real women, and it totally makes sense with what you just shared. So thank you. Yeah, I love your style of photography. Um,
Thanks.
yeah, and another thing that is really inspiring is your body advocacy, and you shared that it really started with yourself. Um, I guess what was that? like for you to um, learn that that was something that you wanted to improve for yourself and then to be able to speak up about it?
I think because ever since I was a kid, body ideals were already pressured on me. So like I was too fat, and then when I got go on diets and I get thin, instead of praise, people still say, "Oh, you're so thin. Do you still eat?" Something like that. So like whatever kind of body I have, people will always have something to say about it because I don't know. Maybe it's because mostly because I'm a woman and there are beauty ideals for us. So I don't know. It was really just during the pandemic because pre-pandemic I was really into dieting. Like I was doing really starving myself just so I can become thin. And then during the pandemic, I kind of had started going to therapy and taking care and started taking care of my mental health. So I had to take antidepressants and other medications, and that's when I started to gain weight. Really, like I gained almost 10 kilograms this year because of the medications I took, and I was so really depressed. Like instead of helping with my depression, it like I got better in my mental health, but at the same time, there's this part is like, but I gained weight, so there's a part of me that's like which is more important, your physical health or your mental health. And I realized that it's not even physical health because I just wanted to starve myself and become thin. So it was really uh I know theoretically, like I know the theories since I'm studying a master's degree in women in development. I know the theories that these are all just pressures of patriarchy and society to oppress women, and that I should not care about how I look like. But even though I know that theoretically, it's so hard to let go of that feeling that I need to to make myself look better. So I don't know, this year with the help of photography, I challenged myself to like, okay, take photos of yourself even if it's not super good, even though you hate it. Like my partner also helps me in my photography. He says he reminds me that, oh, don't edit it, like don't suck in your tummy too much because it's really obvious or something like that. So I think it really started with my photography since I was able to see myself.
And it's not just body advocacy that you share with the world. You also are embracing topics like sex and sexuality that are still taboo in
Yes.
a lot of places. What was that like for you to be able to talk about that sort of thing?
It's quite difficult because until now, like Instagram is kind of like my safe social media space because I have like a Facebook account, and then I used to like whenever we go to the beach, of course I post bikini photos, and then like I get online sexual harassment and things like that. So I turn to Instagram since there's less. Well, in my experience, there's less harassers. Though I still get messages once, uh, forms of sexual harassment once in a while. So, um, wait. So it's difficult to talk about issues of sex and reproductive health, especially in the Philippines, since we're also like a very conservative country, and it's really difficult because uh, I have always been told that I shouldn't dress provocatively or shouldn't post. certain pictures or certain photos, and that really bothered me because I see a lot of guys like uh, posting shirtless or something like that, and people don't comment on that or don't say that, oh, that's something immoral or something bad. So one of the first things I actually posted about sex or and other reproductive health was about sexual violence or and but sexual violence and harassment, which was like I love posting lingerie photos, but that doesn't mean I'm asking for it. So it's like these are photos that I took of myself because they make me feel good about myself. Because like I see myself and I'm like, wow, that girl is so good. And that those are the few times that I really appreciate or fall in love with my body. And I'm sharing that feeling with the world, and that doesn't mean I'm asking for sexist comments or any kind of harassment. So ever since then, I have always tried to ever since because in Instagram I also got I met a lot of people who were like, "Oh, I relate with you," and they are strangers or acquaintances that I have never met in real life yet, but they were always so supportive, and they were, I guess, the reason that I got the confidence to post more content like that because, like, okay, I don't care what the male people say as long as there are these fellow women who are supportive of what I do, and that will be okay for me, and that's really my goal.
And you also use another creative medium, and that is writing. And you talk about your experience as a woman through your writings. I I imagine it to be like a very reflective experience for you. What
Yeah.
does writing do for you, and what are you hoping to achieve from it?
I think my writing, I try to reflect or try to be as honest and as raw as possible whenever I write, especially if it's hand in hand with the photos that I post. It's still difficult because I know that there are personal things that I don't want to share with the whole world yet. So I try to uh, write in a way that is as honest as possible, while at the same time protecting my own story, sharing only part of my own story since I'm not yet like super ready to share everything in my life. So writing really helps me. Like sometimes I write random notes if I think of something of if I remember an experience because usually there are like flashbacks when some it's like wait like, how do I say this? It's like there are times when you randomly remember like a bad experience or a bad encounter like catcalling or
Mhm.
abuse, something like that. So those are the times when I really get in the mood to write. So sometimes the writing comes first before the idea for the photo. So like I write long paragraphs as captions for my photos because they share the story that I want to be able to share to my fellow women who have experienced the same things that I have. And when writing, I try my best to always end with a call to action. So it's not just sharing my experiences, but recommending or encouraging people to do a certain thing, to like to reach out if they need help or to fight back when they can, things like that, because I don't want it to end just as my story, but I want it to be something that is helpful to my audience as well.
If you want people to take one thing away from your creative content, what would you want them to be inspired by, or what would you want them to learn?
Ooh. Right now, what I really want people, well, my women, fellow women to know or to take away from my content is that they should always support other women in whatever ways they can. So in my way, like it. I sometimes I feel like it's such a small thing
Mhm.
what I do, since I'm having a hard time right now because of the pandemic to go to communities and actually photograph them. But I'm hoping that as soon as the pandemic is over, I can get to photo shoot the people from the more marginalized people. So I guess that's what I want. That's my goal, really, to encourage every woman to help other women, because in the end we're the ones who are oppressed, and we're the only ones to get, but and sorry, like in the end we're the group who's oppressed, and the only way we can like go over the patriarchy is when we help each other out and we unite as a group. So let's not like turn on each other, and let's always be supportive of each other and help each other whatever way we can. So yeah, that's always my goal.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I also see that you do fashion as well, which is really
Yeah.
cool. I know you talk about the importance of sustainability a lot in your social channels. Why is that important for you?
I'm also a fashionista. I like dressing up, and growing up as a child, I always thought that uh, branded clothes are always like the best, or like, but since uh, we couldn't always afford those kinds of clothes, we would always go to ukay ukay. Those are the second-hand thrift stores of clothes here in the Philippines. And then I used to be ashamed of that, of going to ukay ukays. But then when I got older, I realized that is- doing thrifting is actually more helpful to the environment, and that I actually find very pretty vintage pieces as well. So it's like I'm like a treasure hunter of some sorts. I also worked at a trade union. My previous work was also with a trade union, and there I was able to understand the impact of fast fashion on garment workers aside from the environment. So it's really shocking and heartbreaking what's happening to them. So ever since then, I really started being more active in the call for a more sustainable fashion movement.
What specifically would you like to do next, if anything?
I Last November I launched a my feminist photography page. So I wanted to make it into a separate page instead of my personal page, so that it's not about me anymore, and it's more about the women I photograph. So I created the Filipina Gaze. It's at the Filipina Gaze. It's a page where I post basically photos of the women I shoot, and I made it into like a gallery. And I, s- I started doing my first exhibit during the 16 days of activism. So the exhibit was about si malakas ay si maganda, meaning si malakas, which is strong in Tagalog. Strong is also beauty. Ay, sorry. Si maganda ay si malakas, which means beautiful is also strong. So I focused or highlighted women who are like me, who have their own advocacies, and who continues fighting for gender equality despite the powerful patriarchy. And I hope to continue growing my photography page next year. Like I said, I wanted to really, aside from just shooting my friends, I wanted to go on streets, meet women there, photo shoot them, learn their stories, then be able to share them with the world. So I hope I'll be able to do that next year.
Yeah, I love that. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Thank you so much for taking your time out and talking with us.